Hi, welcome to the Men's Forum. I'm your host, Gary Costanza, and tonight we're going to discuss the candidacy of a very important father's rights candidate out in California. Unfortunately, we weren't able to bring this to you before the election, although New Yorkers couldn't vote on it anyway. But I'm going to welcome my co-host first, John McGrath.
Hey,
welcome, John.
Hey, Gary, good to be here again.
And as I said, Warren Farrell, famous men's rights and father's rights author, lecturer, doctor, ran for the governorship of California out of 135 candidates. And we have some clips of him to bring our viewers some information about him, get them familiar with him.
Right. Warren Farrell is a member of also the NCFM out in California, right?
Exactly,
That's
yes.
the mother company to the local chapter here in New York?
Yeah, I'm sure he's probably a member and founder of many other groups out there. He's written a lot of books. We'll list those books later, very important books, namely The Myth of Male Power. It's probably the Bible for men's rights.
Right.
I have a clip that I downloaded from his website, which is warrenfarrell.com. 2 R's and 2 L's on Farrell, of the CNN coverage, worldwide coverage of his candidacy. Excellent. It's so good. It's only about 3 minutes, but we're going to bring that. And also, we have a clip of him, about an 18-minute clip, which is really very important, of Warren Farrell, Ph.D., enunciating and proving the necessity of 2 parents in a child's life after divorce. It takes him a while to do it, but it's really riveting. It really proves the point that 2 parents are needed.
That's a good point. And Warren Farrell did some extensive research in that general area by itself, which
Sure. Oh, yeah.
because I'm sure if people at home go to the website, www.warrenfarrell.com.
Right.
They can see some of that research for themselves. Very interesting.
Well, that clip, the second clip we're going to show, where he discusses shared parenting and the need for it, came from a symposium by National Coalition of Free Men out in St. Paul, Minnesota, called Gender Feminism and the Voices Not Heard. Has America Gone Deaf in One Ear? In other words, it was a counter symposium to a Now symposium that was in the same city. And he says in it, it's not part of the clip, but he says he's never really came out against any group, but this was the first time, so he felt a little bit nervous about it, but he had to come out because there are a lot of lies being told by now in a lot of feminist groups.
Right, it's a lot of finger pointing
That hurt
and it's
men
unfounded truths.
Certainly.
And Warren, I think, stepped up to the plate to set the record straight.
Exactly.
In that result.
Well, John, let's get right to the clip. This is the worldwide clip produced by CNN, and I got the whole thing online, and I was able to get it, put it onto tape, and here it is.
Well, of course, Arnold Schwarzenegger is just one of 135 names on the second part of the recall ballot. That translates into 7 pages of candidates, as you can see on this sample ballot that was released just yesterday. Now, somewhere inside that booklet is Warren Farrell's name. CNN's Thelma Gutierrez tells us about this relatively unknown recall candidate and why he's in the race.
Hi, I'm Dr. Warren Farrell, and what I can focus Californians on are fathers' issues.
A lot of men are victims of...
Meet Warren Farrell. He's 60, has a PhD in politics, and is serious about becoming governor of California.
You have to raise money, you have to print signs, you have to put a campaign together, you have to listen to many people with many different views.
His first public appearance, a father's rights rally in Los Angeles.
Father's candidate, Warren Farrell.
We need laws to get women to share children with men.
Farrell says his platform is not necessarily politically correct. He wants to change custody laws in California and put a stop to paternity fraud, issues that strike a chord with some men.
This is the first candidate I've ever heard mention anything about any father's right or men's right in particular.
Does he have your vote?
Yes, he has my vote.
I see myself as having two ways of winning.
At his home in Carlsbad, California, Farrell holds a strategy session with volunteers.
I can win the election, or I can win by getting out the message that children need to be in the lives of fathers.
Farrell is married, has 2 stepdaughters, and has authored several books on men's issues.
This was the first opportunity to have 30 years of research translated into political reality, or at least have those issues visible.
How hard is it to run a campaign when you have $12,000?
It is almost impossible. I always used to say that politics was masochism. Now I know politics is masochism.
A new appreciation for politicians, this PhD has just learned. Thelma Gutierrez, CNN, Los Angeles.
And there are 134 others.
I'm so proud of that guy. Has the gumption to run for governor because it's so important to get those issues out there. Like he said, there was 2 ways to win. If he actually won, or just by getting the message out there that men and fathers are in great need of help.
Right, well,
Right.
like they had mentioned, that he's the first candidate to even mention fathers' rights. And across the nation, especially here in New York where we are, there are laws in force, that are set on the books, on the records, to bring both parents into the children's lives. What we need to do here is to enforce them.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
They're looking to still create them over there. We have them, but they're not being properly enforced.
But we need shared parenting laws. That's what we need. And I love that line that he came up with. We need laws to make women share kids with men.
Well, right.
I get that attitude all the time. I hear it on the radio. I listen to a radio program and they say, my kids. He won't support my kids. My kids? You don't own them.
When did they become my kids?
You
right.
know the attitude,
Right.
right?
They're our kids. Right.
You have a problem seeing your
They're our kids until we get divorced. Then they're my kids.
Yeah.
Now they're
All right.
possessions.
We have to move on to the next clip. This is a great clip at the NCFM symposium out in St. Paul, so we'll get right to it.
But let me work most deeply on the last myth, because that's the myth. I've been doing a lot of expert witness testimony since Father and Child Reunion has been published, and I have seen, including some men right here in this room, children be deprived of dads who it just breaks my heart to see that I am doing work on something that I should never have to be doing work on. It should be so natural that we all understand that children need both of their parents as much as, just as we know that a government is best run by a two-party system, not a one-party system. For the exact same reasons, the families are best run by two parties, not one party. Two parties. The tension between women and men is healthy, can be, if we understand what the purpose of that tension is, can be healthy for our children, and I'll explain more about that in a moment. The myth that I confront most frequently from judges and courts, and that every single judge that I have met means well in this belief. The basic myth is that divorce is destabilizing. Children, therefore, need stability. Children need stability, and if they've had primarily a mom, stability means the continuation of the care from that mom. And I had no reason to disbelieve that. That sounds to me like common sense. The difficulty is that the data was not backing up that finding. After 13 years of doing the research that led to Father and Child Reunion, what I discovered was that children do best, are most stabilized when they have, if there's a divorce. First of all, they do best in the intact family. And they do best in the intact family exactly because the differences between mother and father give the children the best of both worlds. They do second best, not when they're with primarily dad or primarily mom, but the closer the child comes to having three things prevail, the better the child does. The three things that seem to be the determiners are the following: that the child has as close to about half the amount of its time with mom as it does with its dad, and the dad as it does with its mom. Second, that the mom and dad, if there is a divorce, live close enough to each other that the children are able to be with either parent without giving up their sets of friends and without having to worry about giving up a sport or a recital or a soccer thing or a friend's birthday party by going over to the other house. So they're not pitting going over to see the other parent against their community, against their support system, against their sense of identity. And third, that there is no bad-mouthing dad to mom or mom to dad. So many parents that bad-mouth tend to feel that they're bad-mouthing the other parent. They don't seem to pick up that the child is 50% of the parent being bad-mouthed. As that child grows up, it looks in the mirror and sees the body language of the parent that's being bad-mouthed. It starts seeing its dad or its mom's eyes, its nose, the style of the hair, its full-leggedness. I walk like my father walked. My mother points that out all the time. And please don't look at the way I walk. And as you start seeing the body language of the parent that is being bad-mouthed, you begin to wonder whether you are that irresponsible or lazy person, or whether you are that manipulative person, or that oversexed person, or that undersexed or frigid person, or whatever. And so that the child can't do anything with that information, because it can't go back to the bad-mouther without fearing getting into conflict with the bad-mouther. It can't go to the person who's been bad-mouthed and said, because it's afraid of destabilizing its situation further by getting the mom and dad into an argument with each other, and therefore the destabilization after divorce becomes a further destabilization of the child's life. It is that the bad-mouthing becomes the most insidious form of child abuse, because the child can't do anything with the information to process it and get help with it. What I discovered is that when either father or mother is predominantly involved to the point where the child is the visitor in one home and has the other home as the dominant system, that wherever the child is the visitor, the contribution that is normally made by that parent is not able to be made for a number of reasons. Let us say, normally speaking, one of the beautiful things that moms bring to a child is protection. They also bring to a child the ability to let the child cry without censoring the child crying. One of the things that the fathers bring to a relationship and to children is risk-taking encouragement. Encouragement to sort of reach out and try the world, and even if it fails, take the failure. Get mom and dad together. What happens? The child has to climb the tree. Dad says, mom says, no, sweetie, not for a couple of years, maybe then we can climb the tree. Dad says, okay, but just be careful. Kid climbs the tree, falls out of the tree. Dad says, well, no concussion isn't that bad. Broken. He learns something by climbing the tree. You get mom and dad together, and the mom tends to say, you can't climb the tree. Dad says, climb the tree. Mom and dad have an argument about it. Eventually the father's out there under the tree, protecting the child from the fall, not allowing the child to climb beyond a certain point, not allowing the child to climb in certain branches. The child got the best of the protection and the best of the risk-taking. Now you take either of those systems away. You put the child predominantly with the mom or predominantly with the dad. You put the child predominantly with the mom, and the mom overdoes the protection. You put the child predominantly with the dad, he overdoes the risk-taking and all the criticism. And so then you put the child predominantly with the mom. The mom, when the child goes to dad's for the weekend, the dad says, the child says, can I go to the playground and pick up a game of basketball? The dad says, yeah, okay. The kid gets there, but maybe the child gets beaten up. From the dad's perspective, getting beaten up, the child can come back Talk with the dad about how it got beaten up, why it got beaten up. The dad can talk through the issue with the child, help the child work on not getting beaten up the next time, and learns how to deal with children in a way that prevents it from getting beaten up. The dad does not say, okay, you now cannot go to the playground again in the future because you might get beaten up. The dad teaches it how to enter into the world in a safer way. Mom, the child comes back to mom and says to mom, I went to the playground, and mom says, well, what happened? Did Dad go with you? No, Dad didn't go with you. You got beaten up, and Dad's still going to let you go to the playground next week? This feels like abuse from her perspective. But you reverse that situation, and the dad says, the child can with the mom. Dad says, Mom never lets you go to the playground? Mom's overprotecting and smothering you. It's when both mom and dad have about an equal balance of influence on the children that the children get enough experience going to that playground and taking risks and learning how to do what they're doing to be able to be more effective in the world, and at the same time know what the value of protection is from the mom. That the child learns that gets the best of both systems. But here's the crucial reason why children seem to do so much better in all 26 areas of measurement when they're with both mom and dad about equally. When I say all 26 areas of measurement, what I mean is that children that have about an equal amount of mom and dad, that live close enough to each other, where there's a minimal amount of bad mouthing or no bad mouthing, do better in every single academic area, but especially in math and science. They do better in every single psychological area, including less likely to be lonely, less likely to have low self-concept. They're less likely to have attention deficit disorder, less likely to have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. They're less likely to show every single sign of being a victim, less likely to have temper tantrums, nightmares, fears of being criticized, fears of being a bully, being bullied. They're more likely to be able to be, these last two things are amazing. Children with about an equal amount of dad and mom are more likely to be empathetic than children who just live with their moms. They're more likely to be assertive, but not aggressive. The more children do roughhousing with dad or mom, but usually it's with dad, the more children learn empathy, the opposite of what you would think roughhousing would produce, and the more they learn assertiveness. Let me end just by sharing with you how that operates, so you get some visual picture of what dad and mom contribute that's different. Usually, let's say a child is roughhousing with a dad and mom. Usually it's a dad. Mom will usually look over and say, in the intact family, let's say, sweetie, be careful when you're roughhousing because you're a little bit roughhousing close to the couch, and the couch is near the table, and the table is near the lamp. And the lamp could hit you could hit one, knock the other, and the child could be hurt by the falling of the lamp. And dad goes, yes, okay, that's all right, I'll do it. Be careful. Little passive aggressiveness there. And then he goes ahead and continues roughhousing, but dad gets carried away, and mom is watching. And she's saying to herself, inside of herself, I care about the child's protection. Dad just cares about having fun. As he's having fun, he gets carried away as much as the child. It's like 3 children playing there instead of just 2 children. And so therefore she perceives herself as being the better parent. Because I've never had a dad say, I'd like you to know that when I'm roughhousing, in the way that I am roughhousing, seems to be part of my biology, that what comes out of this is I'm teaching the child how to be assertive and not aggressive. I'm teaching the child how to be empathetic. I'm teaching the child how to think of other people's needs, because no daddy does his homework, reads about that, and explains that to women. So it's not women's fault that they don't know that, but let me explain why and how that happens to the best of my ability. When the child is roughhousing with the dad is pinning the child down, and the child's sort of wiggling to get out, and the dad teaches the child, you can fake me out, you can look this way, you can play this way, that way, but you can't kick me, especially down there. You can't pull my hair, you can't poke me in the eye, you can't punch me in the face. And the child goes, okay, and pretends to agree. And then you go back and they get excited again, and the child, what, remembers or forgets? Forgets, exactly, we all know. And the child continues the behavior, and then dad says, okay, I said, if you did that again, there'll be no more roughhousing today. And the child goes, oh, I won't do it again, it's okay, I won't do it again. But what does dad say? Okay, I'll try again? He says, no, today the lesson is you continue to do it this way, and there will be no more roughhousing today, therefore roughhousing over and out tomorrow. The child has a temper tantrum, and goes to mom and says, I was hurt by the roughhousing. And dad doesn't go ahead and continue the roughhousing. But if the child has that temper tantrum, the dad says something like, if you continue the temper tantrum, not only will there be no roughhousing tomorrow, but there will also be no ice cream tonight. Now, what has the child picked up? The child has picked up that if it continues its manipulation, or its temper tantrum, or its victim behavior, it will get less of what it wants, not more of what it wants. And I am telling you how to be assertive versus aggressive, child, which is exactly what mom does also. But when I tell it to you and you don't pay attention to me, there will be negative consequences for you not paying attention to me that are going to be enforced right now. I am not going to yell at you a second time, a third time, and a fourth time, as mom is more likely to do, and increase the tone of my voice and my impatience until we have a conflict that collides. I am not going to exhaust myself repeating something to you that I know that you know. And the moment that you get the moment I do a consequence, we'll see how smart you are. He also learns, the child also learns, that the child has got to think of dad's needs, not to be poked, pushed, pulled, or whatever. Now notice that's the beginning of what? Thinking of somebody else's needs is the beginning of empathy. But the thinking of somebody else's needs did not come because the child wanted to think of somebody else's needs. The child learned that when it was deprived of what it wanted, it would then think of somebody else's needs. Hollering at the child is not enough punishment, is not enough consequence. It'll just go ahead and do what it enjoys doing, and let the other parent just increase the tempo until the tempo gets too much. Children learn to be empathetic, it appears, when they have no choice, that is, when it works against them to not think of somebody else. That's how empathy starts. So it's not just the roughhousing that creates the empathy. It is the combination of the roughhousing with the willingness not to set boundaries, but to enforce the boundaries that are set. It is not boundary setting that dads do well. Boundary setting both moms and dads do about equally well. It is the willingness to enforce boundaries that are set by exacting consequences that are proportionate to the problem that make it dysfunctional for the child to continue breaking the boundaries that are set. And that's what leads to the child thinking of other children, thinking of its parents, therefore getting along better in school, being able to distinguish assertiveness from non-assertiveness. As a result of getting along better in school, being less isolated in school, as a result of being less isolated, being less depressed. As a result of being less isolated and being less depressed, they're able to better concentrate on their work. They're therefore more likely to not have attention deficit disorder, less likely to take Ritalin, less likely to get into problems in school, less likely to therefore be depressed about the work in school, and therefore the health of the child stays healthy and the child attends more days. All of these are documented in Father and Child Reunion, but it gives you a little bit of a sense that when men do not understand what they contribute and do not share with women what they bring to the table, that women believe honestly and judges believe honestly that women are the biological parent that should be stably with the children, and don't understand the research that tells us all that children without an equal amount of mom and dad close to each other physically, whether in an intact family or not in an intact family, are the children that do the best. And when we don't do that, we do a disservice to them. What all of these myths amount to is the sadness that for the first time in human history, we have an opportunity to love each other in a way that our parents and grandparents never had the opportunity to do. If our grandmother did not choose a man with income, she was being irresponsible to the protection of her children. Men were biologically programmed to choose women who were young and beautiful, not mature and interactive in a more mature way. For the first time in human history, it's become functional for both men and women to be able to redefine love, to waste that by developing myths about each other as men being the demons, not understanding that both sexes were powerless historically. Neither sex had rights. Both sexes had obligations. Our parents are confused by our discussions of rights because their life was not about rights. It was about obligations. It was about responsibility. And when we look at our lives and focus only on rights and talk about the other sex as being the enemy, they intuitively sense that the other sex was not the enemy. It was our partner in being able to survive, to define love differently. So we'll be able to marry in the future men who don't focus on money but focus on love, and women who don't focus on beauty but focus on love. Thank you.
You'll like it. I'll surprise you.
Welcome back. How was that? That was amazing. Boy, he really said it, didn't he?
Yeah, Gary, you know what? I take my hat off to Warren Farrell for all the effort that he's put forward for a worthy cause. He stands exactly for what I say all the time. You've heard me say it time and time again. Believe in what you fight for and fight for what you believe in. And sooner or later, things are going to happen, and you'll make a difference.
Very good, very good. I'm with you. So we're running out of time, so I just want to mention, go to warrenfarrell.com, check out the website and his books. Also, I want to mention, there's a Town of Brookhaven support group for men. The phone number is 631-698-2074. Tom runs that, and it's a 5-evening course on Mondays starting October 20th. That's 631-698-2074. Tom. That's a great support group. I did attend that at one time. Also, I want to mention legislation coming up, voting in November. So go to silentmajority.info. Find out what legislators are going to help men and fathers as to shared parenting and our rights.